So there we have it. It's a long time coming, but Logan Sargeant has finally been replaced by Williams Jr. and F2 driver Franco Colapinto. And it wasn't what anyone was expecting. Literally nobody thought this was going to be the guy who was going to get the seats. We all thought this was quite a short-term chance for Williams to kind of step things up and bring in a safer pair of hands. The rumour mill was even in full swing with names like Liam Lawson, Mick Schumacher and even Kimi Antonelli thrown around as alternatives, with Lawson and Schumacher being their most sort of plug-in and play options, as both are in dire need to showcase what they can do on the track. But then with Antonelli being more keen to get some practice before he debuts with Mercedes, or to be confirmed. But no, Williams went totally left field and surprised everybody by announcing that the 21-year-old Argentinian Franco Colapinto would be stepping into Logan Sargeant's slightly scuffed shoes. His massive accident at Zandvoort being the final straw, a decision has been made, and I'm sure the non-Albon side of the garage is relieved. Well, for now anyway. Now in this instance, I'm not going to sit here and say that Williams made the wrong decision by signing Colapinto, because frankly, there's no point. This choice has been made by people who are quite frankly far more intelligent and qualified than I'll ever be, and no amount of banging on about it is going to reverse this sort of decision. So what I think is better is to look at and understand why Williams made this choice to sign Colapinto over some more sort of fan favourite alternatives. But just before we do, make sure you click that subscribe button and also throw in a like if you're enjoying the content as well. So straight away, what I sense that Williams are trying to establish by signing Colapinto is independence, sovereignty and freedom from bigger teams, whatever you want to call it. The headline is that they're nobody's B team anymore. They've promoted a driver from within, from the Williams Driver Academy, and not relied on hand-me-downs or talent pushed upon them by bigger, larger teams. And this is very interesting because I sense that the old Williams would have absolutely taken up the opportunity to take in or loan a driver from elsewhere. But this is the thing, this is the new Williams, or at least the work in progress that will eventually result in the new Williams, has decided to promote from within and boost their own talents. Had they signed someone like Lawson, Schumacher or Kimi Antonelli, yeah, that would have absolutely have solved today's problem. But they would be making tomorrow and the days after much harder, because they are in essence improving someone else's talent. At the end of the day, it's competitors' talent, competitors who could be taking points off your own car next season. And I sense they also don't want to give Red Bull or Mercedes the satisfaction of starting 2025 knowing that their driver is less risky because of the time that they had over at Williams. But whether if it does or doesn't pay off, you have to admit it is still quite admirable that they have chosen to promote from within. Because frankly, and I think you have to ask this, if you don't promote a driver internally in a situation like this, then what's the point in even having a driver academy? And I'm sure it costs a few quid to run as well, so if Colapinto wasn't promoted, I'm sure the owner's going to be looking at James Vowles saying, this driver academy thing you're doing is quite expensive, what the hell are we even doing it for? Why are we even having this junior operation if we're not going to use it? Which leads us also to the possibility that Colapinto might have been promoted in order to justify the very existence of the Williams Driver Academy, which also produced great talent such as Logan Sargeant. So off the back of that, I'm sure that there is pressure to show that they can produce drivers that can successfully make that step up to Formula One. However, had Williams chosen to sign one of the three drivers mentioned earlier, it definitely would have been the more popular and exciting and generally click-inducing sort of decision. And yes, the world of F1 news would have gone into overdrive about all the what-ifs and knock-on effects from this move. And yes, Williams would be getting a driver with more experience and miles under the belt, but you also have to deal with all the legal fidgy-widginess and BS from Red Bull and Mercedes. I mean, getting caught in the political spiderweb and having to deal with all the rubbish that goes with that? No thanks. But with his attachment to Red Bull and eyeing up a future seat either there or at RB, would he really put one over against them on track for Williams' benefit? And also you have to consider what if he's at Williams and then a seat frees up at Red Bull or RB? Due to a driver being perhaps injured or dropped, where would that leave him? He possibly gets called back to Red Bull and then that leaves Williams back at square one. Which then leads us to Mick Schumacher, who's currently a Mercedes reserve driver and also doing bits and pieces with Alpine. But where would a Williams drive lead him exactly? Now this might be an unpopular view, but I think Mick has had his shot now. He's had his roll of the dice and he also wasn't exactly a tidy driver himself. Perhaps not to the standard of Sargeant, but Mick has certainly wrecked some cars in his time, and this is something that Williams are going to try and absolutely pull back from. And personally, I don't think Mick has much of a future in Formula One. But if he did get the Williams drive, it would have been a glory run PR type thing, which ultimately would have led to nowhere because Williams' seats and driver lineup is already confirmed for 2025 and also possibly 26. It just would have been a Schumacher and a Williams. Who would have thought? And then you have Kimi Antonelli, who I'm sure Toto is absolutely desperate for him to get some miles under his belt before, to be confirmed, driving at Mercedes. So firstly, Kimi Antonelli, he already competes against Colapinto in Formula 2. So if Williams did decide to sign him, they would already be doing their junior driver system a disservice. And secondly, why make life harder for yourselves by giving Mercedes a more seasoned and experienced driver in 2025 than they are potentially expecting? Also, you can't discount, what if Kimi Antonelli was loaned in by Williams, stepped in the car and was unimpressive straight away? Immediately had accidents, lots of them, and was generally not what we hoped for. This then gives Mercedes less confidence in him, but also draws their attention towards your future driver Carlos Sainz, as well as your existing one, Alex Albon. Exactly the two drivers who Williams are going to want to hold on to for the foreseeable future. So ultimately, hiring Colapinto over those other names, it's less political, it's less messy, and you are promoting what you're doing from within. And you're promoting your own talent above other people's. Now, for a team such as Williams, who aren't exactly rolling in it, I sense that money was a critical factor into promoting Colapinto to the race seats. He would clearly be the cheaper option from some of those other touted names, and also doesn't come with all the loan fees and all the add-ons that you get from bringing in some talent from elsewhere. Now, none of them are worth Max or Lewis money, obviously, but Lawson and Schumacher have already made their F1 debuts, and they also have very powerful employers who will want to command high fees. And also, you can't disregard this. Although Colapinto is the cheaper option, he does come with a fair amount of backing from Argentinian companies, such as the energy company YPF, and also the tech company Globant. I think that's it anyway. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see some of the logos on the Williams car for the remainder of the season. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is just another pay driver. Well, possibly, but I'm more inclined to think, did the money get him the drive? No. Did it help him get the drive? Yes, of course it did. And of course, time will tell if he was brought in for his talent or for the backing involved. Now, unlike other scenarios where drivers have stepped in at short notice, there isn't a drive available at Williams for 2025 and maybe for 2026 if everything goes according to plan. It's not like if he puts in good performances he can earn himself a drive for next season. Colapinto is really trying to play the long game here. What he can do though is put himself first in the queue should a seat become available, because I sense that although Albon and Sainz are committed, they would absolutely jump at the prospect of joining a race-winning team in future seasons. So if he does impress at Williams and meet expectations and shows us what he can do, then he can absolutely put himself first in the queue should either of their current driver lineup decide to leave. So if he does impress at Williams and meet expectations, his target might be a drive for somewhere in 2026, but maybe not just at Williams. Because if the team goes where James Vowles wants them to go, come 2026-27, they will want to have an experienced seasoned driver lineup and not sign a young talent unless they are truly exceptional. So whilst it's great to see another fresh face in Formula One, and also it's great for Colapinto's CV, it's just kind of tough to think where he can go from this. And also, I think it just adds to the argument of having 11, 12 or 13 teams in F1. Now, what everyone is going to be keeping an eye on here is whether Colapinto is really an improvement over Logan Sargeant. And make sure that Williams aren't stumbling from one problem to the other, and whether they should not have just stuck with a better the devil you know kind of situation. I think at this stage, Williams aren't expecting Colapinto to be a massive step up in results from Logan Sargeant. If he's on par or slightly faster than Sargeant, then that's fine. But I think the main goal here is just to reduce the number of accidents. Big accidents, small accidents, just bring the car back to the pits with all four wheels on it. I mean, please just bring the car back the same condition as you found it. I can't say that he'll be a massive improvement over Sargeant, and to be honest, the odds are as likely that Colapinto will struggle, but it's difficult to see how he could be worse, to be honest. Because Logan unfortunately fell into that category of drivers that were slow and had a huge amount of crashes. It's a black hole that few escape from. Unlike, of course, someone like Verstappen, who crashed a lot in his early years, but did show that raw speed. And I sense it's easier to teach how not to crash than it is how to go fast. Ultimately, Logan had his shot and he was there probably a lot longer than he deserved. Williams protected him for a long time and there were no signs of improvement, so they just couldn't stand with him anymore. So ultimately, fair play to Williams from promoting within. It's a tough thing to do, of course, and it's going to be very interesting to see where Colapinto stands, of course in his first race, but also by the end of the season. It's a great opportunity for him, but also from his perspective, it's also as well a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. F1 drives don't come along very often, so when one does, no matter what your experience or skill level is, you've just got to take it. There's just so many questions waiting to be answered at Monza. But ultimately, what do you guys think? Is he going to be an improvement over Sargeant at Williams? Is he going to absolutely fail, or is he going to be on par? What's going to happen? Let me know in the comments. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, share and subscribe. And as always, I'm Paul, and I'll see you later.